Namaste. Welcome to Satsang. So today I think we should have a look at the question, why should I choose sadhana in my life? Why should I practice meditation in my life? It's a simple old question. What's in it for me? You know, it's basically we live in this society that shouldn't have the need for anything. We have technologies that make the world so small. They make it possible to communicate with each other within seconds, whether you're on the other side of the planet or not. We can fly to anywhere we want to. Not at this time maybe, but we have the technical possibilities to do so. We have the knowledge to fly out of space, to build space stations. So basically we are, I think, one of the most forthcoming, the most comfortable generation that has ever lived. This means we created comfort around us wherever we could. But we come to the conclusion that no matter how comfortable we make things around us, there is still this sense of wanting to rise above that, wanting to be more than we are right now. I think that's a human quality. It's a human trait that we always, no matter what we do in life, we always look for the something more that we get out of it. So there's something more that we want to get out of it. Why do we want to get something more out of this life? Because we want to be happy. We're looking for our goal, and the goal, whether we have set this goal to be very rich one day, very famous one day, being happily married someday, having a lot of children someday, it doesn't really matter what the goal is. The intention to reach that goal, the reason why we strive is because we think once we have achieved that goal, we will be happy, we will be blissful, we will be at peace. Now, the thing is, each person has a different idea about what will make him happy or her happy, what will bring him or her peace. See, somebody who's in business and working at the bank will probably think that having an enormous amount of money will bring him happiness and peace. Somebody who's a guitar player or a sitar player, they want the world fame. They want people buying their records. And if everybody knows my name, then I'll be at peace, right? Somebody who always wanted to be a great father or a great mother thinks having so much children will bring them peace. A yogi thinks that enlightenment will eventually bring him happiness and peace. So you see, no matter what the path is we choose to get there, the end goal, the end game, is always to be blissful, to be at peace. Now, the more we created discomfort around us, the more we started to realize that it doesn't matter how much wealth we accumulate around us, how much children we accumulate around us, how many records we sell, how many promotions we make at work. It always gives this temporary joy, and yet then the feeling of wanting more, having to chase this feeling of happiness again, becomes eminent, and this is a ever-going circle. Yeah. Excuse me. So this ever-going circle is leading us nowhere, and more people start to realize that no matter how hard they work, no matter what they try or what they do, they'll always have this feeling of restlessness, this feeling of, I want more out of life. So the problem is, and I have said this before and I will say it again, that ever since we were kids, we had to learn to take care of our external senses. If we want to survive, if we wanted to survive as a child, we had to be taught that it's dangerous to fire hot, cars fast bad. You have to look what you're doing. Don't touch sharp things. Don't touch hot things. Don't you see I'm busy? You have to listen what your parents tell you. You only talk when you're asked to. So everything we have learned has always been focused on those external senses. Our feel, our touch, our vision, our smell, our taste, our hearing. And like I said, it's useful, it's necessary for survival. Now, this focus on only the external world and the external senses has created a huge blind spot. Let me demonstrate this for you with a simple practice. So what I want you to do now is to put up your thumb before you, just like this, yeah, and focus on this toe, on this fingernail. Yeah, focus on your thumbnail. Just look at it, focus on it, put it closer, just be aware of it and stare at it. Have you done it? Now, can you tell me what happened around you in the room? Of course you didn't, because you were completely focused on this one spot. You are focused on this one part. You know, it's like when we're in a city street and we have been walking for a while and we get hungry, so we are looking for a place to eat. We are reading the signs in the street, and until we find a place that says restaurant or snack bar, right? And then we go to have a bite to eat. Now we have scanned the entire street looking for the sign. But if I ask you how many clothing shops there were in the street, you wouldn't be able to tell me, simply because that was not where your focus was on. You've probably seen all those signs because you read them all to find your food. But we do not grasp or notice that which we do not focus on. So now let's take that same understanding back to spirituality, or let's take it back to this one. By continuously learning that the world can only be experienced by our outward senses, we skipped the most important truth of it all. That's, even though we have our senses, the only place, the only location where we experience this world is within, is inside ourselves. And I know that many of you will think, yeah, well, that's what a lot of New Age and spiritual gurus say. It's all inside you. You have to look inside yourself. And it's easy said. But realize that anything, the most simplest of things, which you thought you experienced from the outside, they do not come from the outside. Like, we all think we know what cold water feels like when we hold our hand under a running tap. But do you? Do you really? I mean, because I claim that the only thing you actually know is the sensation cold water gives on your hand, gives on your skin. You think you know what this fluffy rabbit of the children feels like when you pet it, when in truth, the only thing you actually can know for certain is the sensation that fluffy fur gives on your hand. The sensations that it feels, that your body feels when it touches that. It doesn't say anything about the object in place. It's just what's happening inside of you that you experience, and nothing else. So the same thing goes for bliss. The same thing goes for happiness. Because where do you experience that happiness? Are you able to experience it here or there? Could you move one step aside because I'm blissful here and you're in the way? Of course not. You know, we feel our happiness and our bliss from within. And knowing that this is coming from within, that means that we should, for a moment, let go of these external senses and make room for a new awareness, a new consciousness of going inside, of knowing that all we experience, this entire world, is taking place within us. So for one, there is happiness in being a successful businessman. For another, there is happiness in having the most beautiful women. And then they turn old, and the most beautiful women don't care anymore. And then the stock market crashes, and the money is gone. To some people, that had bothered them in such an extent that they actually chose to end their life because they didn't know how to deal with this one, how to deal with himself. And that's a terrible way to be, you know. That's the message I'm trying to get across. That it is useful or useless to keep on looking for something that you already have out there. If joy and blissfulness is something that is in our nature, that is already there because it comes bubbling from within, from the inside, then it's the inside that we should take care of. And that doesn't mean that you have to change your entire life. In fact, if you would do that, you probably just would be replacing the one thing you're chasing after with a new thing you're chasing after. And that's what we see in this day and age a lot. There is this trend of people that claim to be awake or woke, as they call it. And yet those same people tell you that you have to be afraid of everything, because everything is a conspiracy. Everybody is against you. They want to take our freedom. They want to enslave humanity. They are poisoning us without us knowing that. They try to take everything. To what extent? To what end? To what means? If they would enslave us all and take everything from us, what would be the end game? Because we would reach a point when nobody would be left. And of course, waking up, realizing that things are not the way we thought they were. So things are not the way we think they are. We are not the mind. Can leave you in a slight state of panic if you do not know what is going on, right? If somebody wakes me when I'm sound and deep asleep, the first couple of minutes when I'm just awake, I don't know what's going on. Where am I? What time is it? What day is it? Who are you? So that's when you are asleep and you wake up. And when you got this important business meeting, and you set your clock in the morning because you have to be there somewhere at lunchtime. Setting your alarm alone, and even waking up and getting out of bed will not make you get the deal. It's the first step. And as long as you are still afraid of the dream, you are woke. You are in the state of waking up. But that's not it. You're not there yet. As long as you're still being afraid of the dream, or you're still certain that this dream or this nightmare is reality, you need to throw some cold water in your face. You need to get dressed. Get out there and smell the flowers, you know. So being awoke is good. But it's just a start. If you want to travel to Paris, and there is this road sign that says Paris, 100 kilometers. Would you stand near the sign and says the sign says Paris, I'm here? Of course you wouldn't. You see, that's the same with this being woke thing. It's the first step. But as long as you still have the tendency to blame, if you still have the tendency to be afraid and to even share or pass on that fear to others, then maybe you should have stayed sleeping. Or take the next step and get out of bed and make something out of the day. You see? Because in the end, we all want to be happy, to be blissful, joyful, lead satisfying lives in freedom. And no matter how hard anyone would try to get you out there, in the words of Mel Gibson, they can never take our freedom. Right? It's impossible. They cannot take your soul. They cannot take this part of you that's limitless, that's beyond this physical being. So if it's beyond this physical being, it's impossible to touch. They cannot touch it. Knowing that you are creating your own fear. It's not they or them that's keeping you in the prison. You are keeping yourself in prison. And the funny thing is, you didn't even throw away the key. You have it right there in your pocket. All you need to do is use it. the deeper you turn inward, the deeper you go towards the self, the less all these things, all these fears carry any importance. The more you realize that the things that you and others might be afraid of are not happening or haven't happened yet. They are planning this. In the past, they've done that. Yet we know there is no past, there is no future. Both are just a concept. Can you bring me a piece of past? Like here sometime? Being afraid of what happens in the future is just a thought, a concept in your mind, isn't it? So just breathe in and out. Draw back, withdraw any fear tentacles that you have out in the world. Try to watch the news and not forming an opinion about it. Read as many opposite opinions of your own. Not to be convinced of those opinions, but make it a practice. Get in those things, read those things that really piss you off. And then let them go. Read things that really make you happy and joyful. And then let them go just as well. Be centered. Be dedicated to what is real. So any emotion of anger or fear or promise or putting all your trust in a savior, whether that's a prime minister, a religious figure, anything that leads you away from that which is truth, that which is pure consciousness. Try to see that. Try to filter that out and let it go. Now, this is something that won't happen in a day. And some political leaders of today make it very, very difficult to say, I am not going to jump in their game. I am not going to confront this. I'm not going to project more conflict into this world. Instead, I try to transform it, transcend it, so you will. create this peaceful state of being in which I do see what happens. I do know what is going on. So that doesn't mean you have to hide under a rock and become estranged to the world, because in that becoming estranged to the world lies the biggest risk of growing paranoia. In not knowing what's going on in this world lies the foundation of every conspiracy theory in the world. So read the paper, watch the news. These are the best exercises to let go without becoming estranged from the world. And that's the secret of the old rishis. They weren't moved by the world, yet lived in the middle of it. I think that's the thing most yogis try to achieve. To be in the world, but not of it. Don't try to escape from it. Don't try to escape from all the things going on in this world. Because there is no this world in the end. Because like we established before, everything you experience, you can only experience in yourself. So that means that you have the full capability to change your world, your life, into a life of possibilities, into a life of joy and new options. You are in control. The problem is, the part of you that is in control is not the part that you have focused your energy on all this time. The part of you that has control is not the thumbnail, right? When you drop everything that you think you are, every concept, every idea of yourself, whatever is left is this universal consciousness, Sat Chit Ananda, truth, consciousness, bliss, and nothing else. So does that mean once you have realized this, once you have realized self, that everything from now on will be rainbows and sparkles, everything from now on will be wonderful, and you will never have a problem in your life anymore? No, it's not like that. If anything, I noticed that especially in the beginning of this realization, it's like more and more crap comes your way. How else can you convince yourself that you have this way to deal with it if you don't get all this crap? How many times will you hear people say, life hates me, I get all this crap? You know? The other way of looking at this is life is gentle and caring. And with every new lesson that I have learned, with every new understanding that I have gained, I get this loving chance to bring this in practice. You know? This is what the universe or God gives us. New chance to make a success or a failure and try again. That's all right too, you know. There is no judgment, and that's the beautiful part of it. But there is the opportunity to learn, to grow, to extend to something bigger than yourself. So keep practicing this idea that you are not your mind and your thoughts and whatever you think of yourself. You are not your emotions. If you watch a movie and it's about this killer running about killing people, and you can feel the fear and the stress of the people being chased by this killer. And you can look at that. And you can look at that without one moment having the idea that you actually have to fear something. And you have this sensation of excitement, of fear, yet you know very well and for certain that this killer on the screen doesn't form an actual risk, right? So in the same way, observe the things that trigger you the coming time. Like I said, watch the news, read the paper, just don't get triggered. Whenever you feel being drawn in, just come back to yourself and like, no, I'm only here. I'm only getting this information. I am not passing judgment on it. I will not add my own ideas to it. I will not give in to the fear they're trying to create. Even if the worst scenario conspiracy theory would be true, the best form of resistance would be to make yourself untouchable, to make yourself not here. Okay, I think for today we'll leave it at that. Just play with those ideas for the next couple of days. Stay close to yourself and think about it. Think about how useful being awake is when you don't get out of bed. What's the use of knowing things you don't even sure of? if all you get out of it is fear, panic, and this negative spiral you come into. What if you say, I don't know what the truth is? Which is closer to the real truth than anything we could think of, by the way. When you engage in self-inquiry, I think the most self-inquiry questions will lead you to that conclusion. We do not know. And that's perfectly fine. Because if we do not know, then we can also be peaceful. We can also be joyful. You know? Even if we would know for certain, the best answer would be to be joyful and peaceful. And why would we waste so much energy on something we do not even know is true? It's a silly way to be. Okay, until next time. Thank you for being present. Namaste.